Guys, ladies and gentlemen, and addicts and alcoholics, and moms and dads, and brothers and sisters, and anybody that's affected by the disease of addiction. Okay, so what happened to me today? Well, last night somebody broke into my safe, okay? And I was a little upset at first. I reached out to a few people. I got a lot of help, and they stole my passport. I still got my ID, but I stole my passport and a few dollars, a couple thousand. But you guys know that I'm not about money. I'm about helping people. So anyway, how did I handle it? I handled it the AA way. I handled it with step 10. I want to know what my part in is. You know what I mean? So I know who kind of robbed me, but I'm not going to get into who did it. But it doesn't matter what happens to you. What matters is what are you going to do about it? That's what matters, So anyway, we're going to talk about step 10, but we're going to start with steps 1 and 2. Okay, step 1 is insanity or death or life on a spiritual basis. Okay, we all know that, and that's 1 and 2. So step 1 is going back to drinking, insanity or death, and step 2 is to believe that you can be sober. The obsession can be lifted if you live life on a spiritual basis. Now, step 3 is not about believing in God yet either. Step 3 is, do you believe that, or are you going to pick insanity or death? Or are you going to pick life on a spiritual basis? And there's nobody else to play with. There's no third option. There's no door number 3. And anybody with any sense or any humility being a clear recognition of who and what I really am, followed by a sincere attempt to become what I can be, which means I'm an alcoholic. This is what that means, and I can be restored to sanity. And 4, 5, 6, and 7 is also humility. These are my character defects. I can have them removed, get closer to a higher power, and 4, 5, 6, and 7. So humility is key, like it says in the book, on every step. Now, in step 3, we're going to obviously pick, life on a spiritual basis. We're all going to do that. Now, if we pick that, we're going to go to step 4, because we got to find out what's blocking us from that higher power, from, I call God. Like, what is it that's in me that's allowing this destructive drinking and this failure at life? Let's have a look at that stuff. Let's look at it first and then talk to somebody about it. And then we look at it, we write it down, we do an inventory, write resentments, we write down fear. We have a look at what our part is. We look at where we inconsiderate, or even in self-pity, or where were we dishonest, selfish, or self-centered. Let's have a look at that stuff. And then we go to somebody at 5 that we trust, and he helps us put us in order. Because, like I told you before, when I got to step 5, I didn't have any humility yet. Because in step 4, everything was everybody else's fault up until I got to 5. Same thing that happened to me last night. So you get to 5. The book says when you're honest with another human being, it confirms you're honest with yourself and God, right? So I got honest with a couple of guys today. I got honest 20 years ago with my sponsor, and it put things in a better perspective, okay? So these people that had harmed me in 4, they were on the top of my step 4 list. They went to the top of my step 8 list because I realized where I harmed them first, or where I stepped on their toes, and they retaliated. So not everybody on my step 8 I had a resentment. Some people I just did things to when I was young, or stole for no resentment or no fear. They'll go on the list too, but they didn't come from step 4. So 8 and 9 is done. Now 10. Here's the fun thing about 10. 10 is going to be continuing all this, okay? So if you look at step 10, it says this brings us, the first 9 steps, brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We rigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We have entered the world of the spirit. Remember we said we're going to live life on a spiritual basis? Now we're entering, okay? So now our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. This is not an overnight matter. It's got to continue for your lifetime. If you let up on the spiritual program of action, you're headed for trouble. Continue to watch for, what do we do this at? Step 4. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. 6 and 7. Okay? It's just a continuation. We discuss them with someone immediately. Step 5. Okay? And make amends quickly if we've harmed anybody. 8 and 9. But why are we doing this? Why would we do this? We're doing it because then we got the stuff removed from us. We want to be useful, right? So it says then we resolutely turn our thoughts to somebody we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. So in step 7 prayer, it says remove every single defect of character that stands in the way of my usefulness to God and others and his children. So we're going to continue to do steps 4 through 9 the rest of our life, because we learned how to do them properly in 4 through 9. We already know how to do them in 10 now, because we did them in 4 through 9. And then 11 is very similar. We're going to look for the same 4 things at night and in the morning. You're going to look at the same selfishness, honesty, resentment, and fear, you know. And then in the book, in 12 and 12, it says it's a spiritual axiom. I don't need it. It's a spiritual axiom that anytime we're disturbed, no matter what the cause, no matter what they did, right, there's something wrong with me too. Maybe it's just self-pity. Poor Paul, he got robbed like nobody else get robbed, right? It's the AA way, man. I apply AA to everything. No matter what happens to me, I apply AA, and I don't drink, and I help others. And I love y'all for donating and helping me on this path. And I just think step 10 is one of the most important steps. I love y'all, and we'll see you tomorrow.